Hollywood, sometime after midnight. A phone light, then another, then 10. And in the middle of all those raised screens is a professional boxer throwing hands on the sidewalk, while the father of her child stands a few feet back, watching like it's a pay-per-view he already bought. Hours earlier, that same man was sitting in front of his own camera, cross-examining a grandmother with cancer about why she missed a baby shower. And somewhere across town, a pregnant woman is running, actually running, toward the police because of all of it. 3 scenes, 1 weekend, and the thing stitching them together ain't love, and it ain't loyalty. It's inventory. Let me show you what I mean. Quick pause before we go any further. If this is the kind of autopsy you come here for, handle the trilogy. Like, subscribe, tap the bell, because the back half of the story is the part that actually matters, and I need you here for it. Now the frame, clean and cold. The weekend of August 15th and 16th, 2026. Los Angeles. The principals, Blueface, his pregnant girlfriend Nevaeh Akira, and his ex, Chrisean Rock. The which is a chain, a baby shower for Nevaeh's unborn child, a kick live stream that turned into a referendum on her grandmother. A pull-up Chrisean swore on her own stream was about messages sent to her DMs, and a sidewalk scrap outside a Hollywood function that ended with a woman posting her own face online like a scoreboard. Same cast, 2 days, 4 locations. That's the skeleton. Now let's put meat on it. And before we do, one more layer on the frame, because context is the difference between a gossip clip and an actual read. Blueface, legal name Jonathan Porter, was reportedly released from prison as of November 2nd, 2025 after serving roughly 15 months of a 4-year sentence handed down in August 2024 for a probation violation, per multiple outlets tracking his release. The original 4-year sentence stemmed from a January 2024 probation arrest tied to his underlying Vegas case. What that means in plain English, the man streaming a politics sermon at a baby shower in August 2026 has been out of state custody for roughly 9 months. 9. That's a probationer's 9 months, not a civilian's. Every camera he stands in front of, every altercation adjacent to his address, every deputy call to his door is being logged somewhere with the case number on it. I'm not going to keep saying that out loud through this whole thing, but I need you to hold that clock in your head, because it's ticking under every scene we're about to walk through. And Chrisean's clock is ticking too, just from a different mechanism. She made her professional boxing debut on April 25th, 2026, at an X-Rumble Fighting Championships card in a 3-round bout, winning a split decision over professional wrestler and slap fighter Zina Zion. Judges' scores reported at 30-29, 29-30, and 29-28, per aggregated coverage of the debut. Roughly 5,800 women reportedly applied to be her opponent, per the promotion. This is not a joke career. This is a licensed, sanctioned, documented career. Which means when we get to the sidewalk in Hollywood, we are not talking about a rapper who boxes a little. We are talking about a woman with an official record in a combat sport swinging at someone who isn't. Hold that too. It comes back to bite, because the quotes on this one, they do most of the work themselves. Open with the exchange that set the table for all of it. Days before the shower, Blueface admitting on stream that he cheated on Nevaeh with Chrisean. His version of remorse, verbatim. I cheated. I know. Sorry. Nevaeh's reply, which deserves its own frame. There's no reason to say sorry if you had intentions on doing it. Cold. No theatrics. Just arithmetic. And he followed it with my apology, take it with honor. Which reads like satire. It is not satire. It's a quote. Sit inside that exchange for one more beat, because there's a texture to it people missed. Nevaeh's answer isn't how could you. It isn't who is she. It isn't the classic wrong partner scale of shock and injury. It's a syllogism. If you had intent, an apology is not a repair, it's a receipt. She's cross-examining the grammar of his sentence. And notice she said it while a live stream was running, with a comment section watching, which means she wasn't just answering him. She was on the record, out loud, refusing to accept the currency he was offering. That's not the response of a woman who's been blindsided. That's the response of a woman who's been running the numbers for a while and just watched the audit close. Skepticism is smart here. Because remember, Blueface had told her on a separate stream days earlier, I wouldn't have made you my girlfriend if I was going to cheat on you. A line whose expiration date turned out to be measured in hours, not weeks. Now Blueface at the baby shower, on stream, interrogating Nevaeh about her grandmother's absence. His words, not mine. If it was bingo night, and she had the winning ticket, she'd be here. That was his analogy for a woman whose excuse was a cancer diagnosis. I read that clip description twice. Twice. And listen, cruelty and cleverness are cousins, but they are not the same thing. The bingo line is engineered to sound sharp. It's structured like a joke, cadence and all, setup, punchline, exit. That's the giveaway that this wasn't rage. It was material. You don't reach for bingo night if the sentence is coming from the gut. You reach for she didn't show up, and you sit down. Bingo night is a writer's room line, delivered in front of a $6,000 camera we'll get to in a minute, aimed at a woman who could not be in the room to defend herself, which raises the question the room did not raise. Who exactly was that clip written for? Not Nevaeh. She was already there. Not Grandma. She was in Baltimore, or Louisiana, or wherever the family texts were coming from that day. It was written for us. The people watching. The people clipping. That's the whole tell. Nevaeh pushed back, softly, honestly, saying her grandmother couldn't travel. That the message she'd send explained there was cancer in her back, per the clip circulating from the shower stream. His response, verbatim. You got cancer yesterday, huh? Okay. Reportedly, the exchange escalated from there in ways the shorter clips don't fully capture. Nevaeh visibly emotional, the comment section splitting in real time, the politics framing, we'll get to it, being deployed against an in-law with the stage whatever back diagnosis. The framing matters. He was not saying grandma faked cancer. He was saying, the phrasing is the tell, that the diagnosis was too convenient, that the timing was suspect, that the illness was, essentially, a scheduling excuse. That distinction is going to matter in about 90 seconds when we get to the politics definition, because his framework literally does not accept excuses as valid inputs, which means the sermon he was giving was, structurally, incapable of accommodating the answer his girlfriend was actually providing. He wasn't misunderstanding her. He was operating in a rulebook that made her answer non-computable. Then there's the sidewalk. Footage shared widely on Instagram shows Nevaeh outside the function, frantic, pointing officers toward the scene. Take them. Take them. I need them charged. That's a pregnant woman begging law enforcement to enter the chat. Wild doesn't cover it. And notice the plural. Them. Not her. Not Chrisean. Them. That's a small word doing enormous work. Whether it's a reflex plural, the kind you use when you're panicked and pointing at a crowd, or whether it's a deliberate widening of the frame to include Blueface as an accessory to whatever just happened. It tells you her nervous system, in the moment, didn't separate the actors. It saw a unit. The eyewitness clip circulating from that night, filmed on a phone with the streetlights blowing out in the top of the frame, captures her voice at a pitch that isn't performance. It's a pregnant woman with adrenaline in her ears, trying to get uniformed officers to walk one direction, while the cameras walk another Instagram reel via World Star Hip Hop. If you can watch that footage and still frame this weekend as girls fighting, respectfully, I don't know what to tell you. And Chrisean? She already handed us the confession weeks ago. She just said it so casually people scrolled past it. On her own stream. I was acting loud and obnoxious on purpose, bro. We're streaming. We're clipping. She said that. Out loud. Into a microphone. One more from her. And I'll let it sit in silence. I'm also strategic too. Yeah. Sit with that one yourself. I want to sit with it for one more paragraph, because strategic is a load-bearing word in this whole story, and nobody is treating it like one. Strategy implies a plan. A plan implies goals. Goals imply a target audience. So when Chrisean says she is also strategic too, she is telling you, voluntarily, on her own stream, unprompted, that there's a rational actor making choices inside the chaos, that the chaos is packaging, that the loudness is deliberate. Now cross that against the loud and obnoxious on purpose line. Cross it against the clipping line. Cross it against the sisters' fight in Atlanta that same weekend, and you start to see something the blogs won't say. This isn't a woman losing her grip. This is a woman running an operation. Whether that operation is smart, sustainable, or ethical is a separate conversation. But it is an operation. which means every time an outlet frames her as unhinged, they are laundering her strategy into pathology, which, and here's the funny part, is exactly what strategy wants them to do. Now string it together, because the order of operations is the whole story. Back up to February, Nevaeh announced a pregnancy with Blueface during a Twitch stream. So this child has been content since before it had a heartbeat. Literally documented from announcement onward. Then June and July did their work. Days before that cheating admission, he told Nevaeh on stream, "I wouldn't have made you my girlfriend if I was going to cheat on you." And roughly a day after saying it, he was spotted with Chrisean at a boat party in Los Angeles. So the apology Nevaeh got wasn't a confession. It was a scheduling update. There's also the stream where he told her, in front of her son superior, "You don't got no potential." Her response was to tell him to watch his mouth around the boy because, quote, "he can go to school saying whatever he hears at home." File that line away. It comes back at the end. And walk the timeline back one more click, because February to August isn't a summer. It's a production cycle. February announcement. Spring. The couple content, the domestic content, the look at us content. Early summer. The first cracks, the first "I wouldn't cheat on you" reassurances, the kind of denials that only get issued when the accusation is already in the room. Midsummer. The boat party sighting, the whisper network, the time-stamped photographic evidence. Late July into early August, the on-camera admission, the take it with honor apology. Early August, the pool. Mid-August, the shower, the fight. 6 months, 7 if you're generous. And the arc bends the same direction the algorithm does, from soft launch to hard clip. That is the shape of a season of television. That is not the shape of a relationship. Both things can be true. In this one, only one of them is being planned. Fast forward to earlier this month, Blueface kicked his pregnant girlfriend into a pool on stream, laughed it off with, "I barely even kicked you." And hours later sheriff's deputies were at his Santa Clarita door. And the officer's questions, per the reporting, were not vague. "Were you kicked today?" Specifically, "Were you kicked in the stomach?" Nevaeh told them no. Nobody was hurt. Everybody went home. Deputies at the house over a pool. Remember that temperature. Zoom in on that questioning for a second because it's important. The specificity of "in the stomach" is not a random detail. That is a domestic violence trained officer working a checklist. Deputies responding to a call involving a visibly pregnant woman and an alleged kick are looking for one specific thing. Contact with the abdomen, because that changes the charge, changes the referral, and changes the paperwork. Nevaeh answered no. No arrest was made. The paperwork closes. But here's the part the aggregators didn't circle. A call like that generates a record. A record generates a name in a database. A name in a database, for a probationer roughly 9 months out of state custody, is the kind of thing a parole officer notices, whether the girlfriend pressed anything or not. This is why the pool matters. And this is why the pool is the ghost in the machine of the entire baby shower weekend. The house call didn't end when the deputies left. It ended when the file closed. And I have not seen anyone confirm the file has closed. Saturday, August 15th. While all this is simmering, Chrisean is in her feelings about something entirely different. Her sister Taseki losing the Baddies Championship bout to Big Lex by unanimous decision at Atlanta State Farm Arena. A fight card that had Claressa Shields on top and Kim Kardashian in the building. Chrisean live-streamed herself watching, broke down crying, and asked her viewers, "Why do I feel like I lost?" That's her emotional state going into this exact weekend. A woman already cracked open, in real time. And the details of that Atlanta card matter more than the blogs treated them, because they set the mood of the whole 24 hours. The bout was 3 rounds. Big Lex took it on the judges' cards by unanimous decision. Claressa Shields, the GWAT, pound for pound one of the most decorated female boxers alive, was in the main event against Kay Scott for the WBA and WBC unified middleweight titles, and had reportedly stepped into Big Lex's corner ahead of the fight after seeing the build-up. Which means Chrisean, herself a professional boxer 9 months into a real career, was watching her sister get outworked on the biggest stage of baddies fighter had ever stood on an undercard headlined by a legitimate world title fight, with a legitimate world champion visibly aligned with the opposing corner. That's not just sisterly disappointment. That's a professional identity earthquake. She wasn't crying because Taseki lost a boxing match. She was crying because the family's entire boxing brand, the one she is now the professional face of, took an unanimous L in front of a Kardashian and a champion. Now put that woman in a car in Los Angeles that same night. Now hand her a phone full of DMs. Now tell her the man who cheated on her is at a baby shower, streaming a politics sermon. You do not need a screenwriter to write what happens next. You need traffic. Same weekend, the baby shower. Blueface spends a stretch of his own stream prosecuting Grandma's absence. The bingo bit, the cancer yesterday bit, the part where he declares, "You don't matter. You're not a factor," about anyone who didn't attend. Meanwhile, for the back and forth on the stream itself, Grandma is reportedly home watching the clips and forwarding Nevaeh screenshots of Chrisean making threats. So the grandmother is absent from the venue, but present in the algorithm. Hold that detail. That is one of the strangest sentences I have ever had to write on this channel, and I want to sit inside it for a second, because the layers are legitimately dizzying. The grandmother, cancer patient in another state, physically unable to attend, is simultaneously A, the target of a public rant at the shower she couldn't attend, B, the recipient of clips of that rant in near real time, copyright forwarding secondary evidence, threat screenshots, to the mother-to-be also in the room, and D, not a participant in any of it, per anyone's account. She is, functionally, a node in the network, not a person. Her attendance was never the question. Her existence was. That is what happens when you build a life inside a comment section. Family members do not have to be present to be processed. They just have to be online. Grandma, allegedly, was online. So Grandma became content. And the man giving the sermon about who matters was, in the same breath, converting a cancer patient into a segment. That's the sentence. Read it twice. I did. Then the night turns. Chrisean goes live from her car. Says people are denying her everything being said about her. Denies she ever pulled up to the house. And says, quote, "Why would I pull up with no security?" Hours later, she's outside the function anyway. Nevaeh is sprinting for police. And Chrisean ends up swinging on a woman alleged to be one of Nevaeh's friends, per Complex's reporting on the brawl. And notice the tell inside that denial. "Why would I pull up with no security?" isn't a statement of intent. It's a statement of logistics. She wasn't saying, "I would never." She was saying, "Not like this." That is a woman on camera negotiating the terms under which the pull-up would be reasonable, not the question of whether the pull-up was possible. So when the pull-up happens anyway a few hours later, we shouldn't act shocked. She'd already given us the framework. The only variable was staffing. Fresh reporting from aggregators covering the sidewalk footage described Blueface as physically present, watching, standing a few feet off from the actual swings, while phones ringed the whole thing like a boxing crowd. Several outlets and posts have referenced the imagery of him spectating rather than intervening. His posture inside that circle is going to matter to a lot of people. It should. A man's job description in that scene is not neutral observer. Wait, actually, hold on, back up. Because there's a line in Chrisean's own car stream that explains the pull-up better than anything. I'm human. I'm not about to let a woman that's using the situation for his gain. She's telling you, in her own words, that she knew the optics, knew the setup, and drove toward it anyway. That's not a heat-of-the-moment person. That's a person making a decision. And the epilogue. The woman on the other end of the fight reportedly posted her face afterward with a caption clowning the idea of registered hands. Social posts that night also claimed shots were fired in the area later. That's unverified, treated as rumor until a report surfaces. But the tone of the whole weekend, top to bottom, was escalation with a camera tax. For the record, the shots fired chatter has been repeated across several aggregator posts and video pages, some referencing a specific number, 7 shots, which has not been anchored to any official law enforcement statement I've been able to find, per the ecosystem of unverified secondary posts making that claim. I'm not repeating that as fact. I'm flagging that it is circulating, that no credible outlet has confirmed a police report tying gunfire to this specific incident as of this recording, and that if it turns out to be true, we are talking about a completely different tier of story, one that leaves this channel and enters court reporting. Until then, it's rumor. Treat it accordingly, and be honest with yourself about the ecosystem incentive to inflate. sidewalk scuffle, doesn't clip like 7 shots fired. Which itself is the tell. Now zoom in. 3 fragments worth freezing. Fragment 1, the legal one, and it's the part that made me read things 3 times. The registered hands joke the other woman posted is built on a myth. There is no registry. California does not issue deadly weapon certificates for fists. That's barbershop law. It doesn't exist. But here's what does exist. Prosecutors can and do treat professional fighting training as an aggravating factor when a trained fighter catches an assault charge against an untrained person. Chrisean isn't a reality star who boxes for fun anymore. She's been building an actual professional boxing career, which Complex noted in its brawl coverage. Every sidewalk fight from here forward isn't content. It's a deposition exhibit. The joke the internet is making is almost the right joke, just legally illiterate. Let me stretch that out, because the misunderstanding is genuinely widespread. The registered hands meme derives from martial arts folklore, the idea that a black belt in some jurisdiction had to notify law enforcement of lethal weapon status. It's a myth. Repeat, a myth. What is real? And this is where the meme accidentally lands on truth. Is that in a use of force analysis, whether we're talking about California Penal Code Section 245, assault by means likely to produce great bodily injury, or the standard escalators for felony battery, a defendant's known skill differential relative to the victim can be argued by a prosecutor as part of the totality of circumstances. It doesn't mean a boxer can't defend themselves. It doesn't mean a boxer is automatically charged more harshly. It means that when the state weighs whether force used was reasonable, professional combat training is a fact that lives in the file. Chrisean has a documented, sanctioned, publicly promoted professional fight on her ledger. Split decision. 3 rounds. April 25, 2026. Roughly 5,800 women applied to be the opponent. That is not a "she also boxes" line in a Wikipedia article. That is discovery. If any of the sidewalk footage from that weekend ever gets pulled into a filing, her professional debut is Exhibit A on the state side of the ledger, whether that's fair or not. The meme was right by accident. The joke got the letter of the law wrong, and the spirit of the law exactly correct. Fragment 2, behavioral. Watch Chrisean's pattern across her own admissions, because she keeps publishing the playbook and nobody files it. The loud and obnoxious on purpose confession. The separate admission that the affection toward Blueface on camera was performed for clips. The "I'm numb to him, I treat him like he my brother" line, delivered in the same breath as "I'm also strategic." Each one of those is a woman telling you the performance is a performance. That's not hypocrisy, that's disclosure. She is, on record, the most honest person in this entire triangle, and I don't think she's gotten a single ounce of credit for it. And I want to underline that, because in a media environment where every celebrity is running a persona and nobody admits it, Chrisean is doing something almost quaint, telling the audience the trick before she performs it. Old school magicians used to call that the disclaimer. You tell the crowd it's an illusion, and then you do the illusion anyway, and the crowd loves you for it because the honesty about the mechanism becomes part of the magic. That's what she's doing. She said, "We're clipping" out loud, and then she clipped. She said, "I'm strategic" out loud, and then she strategized. She said "loud and obnoxious" on purpose out loud, and then she was loud and obnoxious on purpose. The blogs framed each of these as slip-ups. They're not slip-ups. They are, structurally, the entire show. Which raises the question the culture will not sit with. If the performer keeps telling you it's a performance, and you keep responding as if it isn't, who's the mark? Fragment 2.5. And it's a small one that tells you everything. Terminology. Mid-sermon, Nevaeh admits she doesn't know what he means by politics, and Blueface defines it on camera. There's government politics and gang politics, and politicking means, "This don't make sense, so we're going to politic on you." He is, in that moment, teaching a street accountability framework to his girlfriend at her own baby shower. A framework where excuses don't exist, delivered by a man whose entire public life is an excuse with good lighting. The vocabulary of loyalty, spoken fluently by the person it constrains least. And notice what that definition does structurally. "This don't make sense, so we're going to politic on you," is an input-output system with no room for "she has cancer, she can't fly." Inside the framework Blueface is teaching, Medical impossibility is indistinguishable from disrespect. Distance is disrespect. Illness is disrespect. Any absence not authorized by the person doing the accounting is, by definition, a violation. He is not misapplying his framework to grandma. He is applying it correctly. The framework itself is the problem, and he is teaching that framework on camera to the pregnant mother of his child in a room full of her family, while a $6,000 camera streams it to an audience that already knows how this ends. That is not a rant. That is indoctrination with a good ring light. Graded accordingly. Fragment 3, audiovisual. In the middle of the baby shower politics sermon, Blueface drops this, and it flew under everything. I'm streaming off of a $6,000 camera with a $3,000 lens with a $500,000 car. He said that while grilling Nevaeh about her grandma, the man itemized his production budget mid-lecture about what real loyalty looks like. That's the tell of the whole weekend. Even the sincerity has a spec sheet. And notice Nevaeh's counterpunch in the same stream. If there's some real stuff to be said, camera or not, somebody about to tell me some real stuff. She's the only one who keeps questioning whether anything off camera even exists. Pregnant, outnumbered, and still the sharpest person in the room. Let me name what she's doing in that sentence, because it's genuinely rare in a stream context. She is puncturing the fourth wall. Everyone else in that room is performing to camera. She is asking whether the room has a floor when the camera is off. That's not a rhetorical flourish. That's a philosophical question at a baby shower on a live stream from a woman whose ankles are probably swollen and whose grandma is being disrespected in real time. And the fact that nobody in the room answers her question, the fact that the sermon just moves past it, is the answer. There's no camera off floor. The floor is the camera. That is what he was teaching her when he itemized the rig. He wasn't bragging. He was explaining. The lens is the covenant. The car is the contract. Loyalty inside that ecosystem is measured in equipment. And she is the one person in the room who keeps stress testing the framework by asking whether the equipment is the point, which spoiler it is. Now, how did the room cover it? Because the split is instructive. TMZ played the weekend as soap opera. Their frame was Chrisean, the emotional train wreck, crying over her sister's loss. Crash out language. The human interest circus angle. Not inaccurate, but it flattens her into a reaction gif. Complex went colder and, honestly, more useful. They laid the pool incident, the cheating admission, and the street brawl in a row like exhibits, letting the pattern indict itself. Their frame is pattern recognition, not punchline. The social pages, pure carnival. Clown emojis, Miss Holy Hand's nicknames, voodoo jokes, maximum engagement, minimum information, and the video aggregators ran it as straight spectacle, slow pans, siren emojis, comment sections doing play-by-play like it's a title fight undercard instead of a pregnant woman's worst weekend. 3 outlets, 3 products. TMZ sold the meltdown, Complex sold the pattern, the blog sold the circus. Nobody sold the question of why a professional boxer was within 5 miles of that function. And frankly, none of them sold the second, larger question, which is why a probationer roughly 9 months out of state custody is streaming an argument at a baby shower with visibly emotional participants and hosting content that ends in a police call. That's not a moral question. That's a supervision question. There's a compliance dimension to Blueface public life right now that nobody in the coverage is treating with any weight, because it's less clickable than Chrisean is crashing out. A pattern of live-streamed altercations at a residence, adjacent to a partner who has been the subject of a prior deputy visit, in the vicinity of a professional fighter who has now been publicly linked to a sidewalk assault, is precisely the profile a supervising authority reviews. Nobody in the coverage said that out loud. I'm saying it once and moving on. And then there's the counter-narrative, and I'm not going to dodge it. The loudest one in the comments says Nevaeh had this coming, that she allegedly called Chrisean's son names, ugly stuff about the baby needing therapy, and that any mother would have pulled up. And listen, I'll steelman that for a beat. If someone reportedly talked about my child development online, I'd feel the floor tilt too. That rage is legible. But legible isn't smart. A mother with a professional fighting license driving across Los Angeles over Instagram messages isn't defending her son. She's donating her leverage to the people who profit from her rage. The baby shower sermons grandma, the DMs, the pull-up. Every single actor in this story fed the same machine, and the machine's only product is the next clip. Anger was the inventory. Everybody stocked the shelf. And I want to be clean here. I'm not saying Nevaeh is a victim without agency. I'm not saying Chrisean is a villain without provocation. I'm not saying Blueface is a mastermind. The receipts on his own choices, from the pool to the sermon to the sidewalk posture, don't suggest a mastermind. They suggest a man who has confused audience approval for actual leverage. What I'm saying is that all three of them are inside the same distribution network. And the distribution network is the thing that wins every weekend, regardless of who catches the L on the sidewalk. The comment section wants a villain because a villain is a resolvable problem. This weekend does not have a villain. It has a supply chain. And every actor in the story is a link. And every link is load-bearing. And no link, especially not the one holding the $6,000 camera, is more responsible than the others for the system's continued output. That's the uncomfortable version of the "she had it coming" argument. The comfortable version is a scapegoat. The honest version is an org chart. So here's the read the blogs won't print. The mainstream take is simple. Chrisean's unhinged. Blueface is disrespectful. Nevaeh flipped out. Clean, clickable wrong. Or at least incomplete. Because, look at the receipts we just walked through. This wasn't a weekend of drama. It was a weekend of production. 2 of the 3 principals are on record admitting they perform conflict for clips. Chrisean said clipping with her whole chest. Blueface narrated his camera rig, like a best by receipt, while performing outrage. The baby shower wasn't ruined by drama. The drama was the programming. The politics, speech about grandma. That's a segment. The pool kick that brought deputies to the door 2 weeks ago. Content with a police epilogue. Even the reconciliation talk. Blueface recently dubbed himself and Chrisean more popular than Jay-Z and Beyoncé on stream, which is delusional as music criticism, but revealing as a business plan. He doesn't see an X. He sees a franchise co-star. Look at the loyalty economics for a second, because this triangle runs on debt, not love. Chrisean brings the chaos inventory, the pull-ups, the tears, the fight footage, and gets relevance in return. Nevaeh brings the domestic product, the pregnancy, the shower, the girlfriend title, and gets publicly litigated for it. Blueface owes both of them something and pays neither, because the moment he settles one account, the other stops generating content. A man fully caught up on his debts is a man with a quiet channel. He knows it. That's why the cheating apology came with take it with honor energy. An apology that costs nothing and resolves nothing is a renewal notice, not a reckoning. And expand the ledger, because there's a third invisible party being billed here, the audience. We show up. We click. We clip. We laugh at the Miss Holy Hands jokes. We screenshot the sermon. We duet the pool footage. We hate watch the pull-up. And every unit of our attention is a microtransaction inside the same store. Nevaeh is losing dignity in that store. Chrisean is losing legal insulation in that store. Blueface is losing supervised release credibility in that store. And we, the audience, are the counter clerks, ringing every one of those losses up as gain, because gain is measured in throughput. The reason this triangle is stable is because we are stable. As long as the counter is open, the shelves get stocked. The moment the counter closes, the inventory sits, which means the exit ramp from this cycle is not, and has never been moral. It's economic. And it doesn't start with the 3 principles. It starts with the counter. And the one thing in this entire ecosystem that cannot be scripted, clipped, or monetized is the legal exposure. That's the glitch in their matrix. You can perform a fight. You cannot perform a court date. A boxer swinging on civilians in the street is the one product line where the algorithm can't protect you. Because the district Blueface, streaming a loyalty sermon at a baby shower days after reportedly kicking the mother-to-be into a pool. Audacity doing cardio. Nevaeh, the clearest eyes in the house, and she keeps re-signing the lease on the chaos. At some point, camera or not, becomes a question she has to answer, not ask. Chrisean, the honest performer, confessing the act, and then doing the act, like a magician who explains the trick and still saws the lady in half. Grandma, allegedly texting threat clips to a pregnant woman instead of, I don't know, calling her. And the blogs, us included on the bad days, passing the same 40 seconds around like it's news and not inventory. The uncomfortable truth underneath all of it. Everybody in this story is employed by the dysfunction except the two people it costs the most. A grandmother with cancer getting litigated on a live stream, and an unborn child who's been content since February. That's the take. Chew on it. Let me stack the receipts one more time before we move to the forecast, because if any of this gets used for future filings, and I do not say this lightly, the record should be tight. Blueface, per multiple outlets, was released from prison in November 2025 after serving roughly 15 months of a 4-year probation violation sentence. Chrisean, per own promotion and multiple sports desks, is a licensed professional boxer with a documented April 2026 debut win. Nevaeh, per Complex, has confirmed her pregnancy publicly since February 2026. The pool incident, per Complex and TMZ, brought LA County Sheriff's deputies to the Santa Clarita residence and produced no arrest. The Atlanta card, Taseki vs. Big Lex, was August 15th, 2026, at State Farm Arena, on the Clarissa Shields vs. K. Scott undercard, and Big Lex took the unanimous decision. The baby shower stream, the politics definition, the bingo night, and Cancer Yesterday quotes are anchored in circulating clip descriptions attributed to the shower livestream. The Hollywood brawl and Blueface presence at it are covered by Complex and multiple aggregators. The shots fired chatter is unverified rumor as of this recording. That is the entire evidence stack. Anything beyond that stack, the inner motivations, the who really, is analysis, and analysis is labeled as such. Skepticism always. So where does this go? 3 roads, no labels. Most likely. Watch how fast the reconciliation cycle spins back up. Within weeks, expect a joint stream, a we're good clip, maybe Chrisean back in the frame with the $500,000 car, because the franchise needs both leads. The fight gets memory hold into a punchline. The woman who posted her face fades out of the comments, and the only loser is anyone who thought the weekend meant something. Blueface side wins because it always wins. He owns the camera, the platform, and the edit. Bookmark it. The next family content drop will reference none of this, and the silence will be the loudest part. Cross-reference that against the pattern we've watched for 2 years. Every prior blow-up in this ecosystem has resolved not with an apology, but with the recollab. A stream together. A song together. A we're just friends clip that dissolves into a we might be more clip that dissolves into a look at the baby clip. The half-life on outrage inside this network is measured in weeks, not months, which means the calendar prediction is not reconciliation eventually. It's reconciliation on a schedule the platform algorithm will time for you. Watch the numbers. Watch the analytics moments. When engagement on the fight footage dips below the reconciliation threshold, the reconciliation drops. That is not cynicism. That is production. The table flip path. Don't be shocked when the legal system enters the group chat. If the woman from the sidewalk decides to press, and she's already posting her face like evidence, which lawyers notice, Chrisean's boxing career stops being a redemption arc and starts being a prosecutor's opening statement. Add the reports, unconfirmed as of now, that Blueface's own legal situation is one bad night away from tightening, and the whole production company is one filing away from a very different kind of clip. The first subpoena in this friend group will do what no expose ever could, make them all go quiet at once. And here's the part nobody wants to plan for. A filing is not a moral event. It is a paperwork event. It happens on a timeline that has nothing to do with the news cycle. Statutes have their own clocks. Statutes of limitations, filing windows, referral timelines. These run independent of TikTok engagement. What that means practically. Months from now, when the internet has moved on, when the family content is back on, when Nevaeh is doing haul videos and Chrisean is promoting her next bout, that is when the paperwork lands. That is the pattern. That is how these stories always break in the second act. The blogs will write the shocking new development post. Nothing about it will be shocking. It will be the receipt for a purchase we all watched being made on August 15th and 16th, 2026, in real time, on multiple streams, in front of witnesses. Bookmark that too. And the 5-year aftershock? The residue is the kids. Chrisean Jr., Superior, the baby from this shower. They're going to inherit a searchable archive where their parents' worst nights are monetized in perpetuity. Superior's already in the clips. Nevaeh herself said on stream that he can hear the adults and repeat it at school. That's not drama. That's a childhood with a comment section. The culture will move on. The algorithm never forgets, and it doesn't age out. Think about that phrase, childhood with a comment section, because it's a genuinely new category of harm, and the culture has no framework for it yet. Prior generations of children of famous people had privacy defaults. You had to actively seek out the tabloid. And even then, the tabloid was a paper artifact you could throw away. The kids in this story are being raised inside a permanently indexed corpus. Every future girlfriend, every future boss, every future teacher, every future opponent in a courtroom will be able to type a name into a search bar and pull up the pool clip, the sermon, the sidewalk swing. That corpus does not degrade. It compounds. Superior, whose full name is on some of these streams, is going to grow up alongside a search engine that remembers the day his mother told his stepfather to watch his mouth around him, and the search engine will present that day, forever, as content, with the same ad breaks and the same comments and the same clown emojis. That is what monetization in perpetuity actually means. Not they'll see this someday. Someday is now. Someday started in February. The prediction you can quote me on. The next time this crew trends, it won't be for a fight. It'll be for a filing. And everybody acting shocked will be acting. That's the weekend. All 4 locations. No commercial break. If you want part 2 the second the paperwork drops, you know the drill. Like this. Subscribe to Fame Cryptics. Ring the bell so the upload finds you first. Drop your read in the comments. Was the pull-up defense or donation? I'm in there arguing too. Next one's already loading.